All right, question number one. Question number one is asking us, what is 10% of 470? To find a percentage of a number, we just need to multiply the percentage by the number. Before we can do that, we need to convert our percentage into a decimal. So that would look like 0.10 times 470. And that's just because we divided 10 by 100. And now if we multiply these through, we should get 47. That leaves our answer as B. Question number 2 gives us an equation, 4x plus 6 equals 18. It's asking which equation has the same solution as the given equation. So we see all these equations here are just 4x equals something. So we just have to find what 4x is. We don't even have to solve for x. So if we take our equation, 4x plus 6 equals 18. And we just subtract 6 from both sides, we should get that 4x is equal to 12. And that's just C. Question number 3 says, the total cost in dollars to rent a surfboard consists of a $25 service fee, a $10 per hour rental fee. A person rents a surfboard for T hours and intends to spend a maximum of $75. So whenever we're crafting an equation or an inequality, like it is in this case, it always follows a pretty simple pattern. We take our consistent service fee, we're only going to be charged one time. We keep it separate, no variables, because a variable won't affect it. It doesn't matter how many hours we rent it for, that $25 fee is not going to change at all. And then we can take our rental fee, which is a variable fee. It depends on the number of hours, and hours here are going to be represented by T. And we're going to multiply it by the variable, because if we plug in however many hours, we're going to multiply it by 10 and add on that $25 service fee. And now we have an equation or an inequality. We just have to set it equal to something or less than or greater than equal to something. And in this case, we want to spend a maximum of $75. So this has to be less than or equal to 75 because nothing can be greater than 75 if it is the maximum. And that is answer choice D. Question number 4 says that g is defined by g of x equals x squared plus 9. And we need to find what x is when g of x is equal to 25. So all we need to do is we have to see that g of x here is the same thing as g of x here. We can just plug in 25 for g of x up here. And then when we solve for x, we'll get what we're looking for. So 25 is equal to x squared plus 9. We can solve this like any other regular equation. So they're adding 9, we're going to do the opposite. Minus 9 minus 9. As long as we do it on both sides, everything is good. 16 is equal to x squared. So now to get rid of the squared, we're just going to take a square root of both sides. We should get that plus or minus 4 is equal to x. And the reason it's plus or minus is because we don't know if it was negative 4 squared or positive 4 squared, because negative 4 squared is also 16. But in this case, they just want the positive solution, so our answer is A, or 4. Question number 5 says, each face of a fair 14-sided die is labeled with a number 1 through 14, with a different number appearing on each face. If the die is rolled one time, what is the probability of rolling a 2? So 2 is just one of the 14 numbers. So it doesn't matter if it's 2 or if it was 6 or if it was 7. It's only going to appear one time out of the 14 numbers. So our chance of rolling it would be 1 out of 14, or just A. Question number 6. A printer produces posters at a constant rate of 42 posters per minute. At what rate in posters per hour does the printer produce the posters? So if it makes 42 per minute, there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. To convert, all we have to do is multiply by 60 because there's going to be 42 times 60 posters in the span of an hour. So we're just going to do that, 42 times 60. And that is 2,520. Question number 7 says the function f is defined by the equation f of x equals 7x plus 2. What is the value of f of x when x equals 4? So they're telling us x equals 4 and we need to find what f of x is. So we're going to take our original equation here, f of x equals 7. And we're going to plug in 4 for x, so 4 plus 2. And now let's just break it down. F of x equals 7 times 4 is 28, plus 2 equals 30. And that is our answer. All right, question number 8 is asking, a teacher is creating an assignment worth 70 points. The assignment will consist of questions worth 1 point and questions worth 3 points. Which equation represents the situation where x represents the 1 point questions and y represents the 3 point questions? Okay, so what is going on here? Our total is 70 points, and unfortunately every multiple choice already has that, so we can't do any kind of multiple choice elimination here. If we get 1 point for every x question, we can just do 1 times x, or just x plus, and then if we're getting 3 points for every y question we answer correctly, we have to multiply y by 3 because every single question is going to be worth 3 points. So however many y questions we got right, they're going to be worth 3 points. So plus 3y, and as we already know, it's going to be equal to 70. And that is going to be answer choice D. So question number 8 is telling us that right triangle LMN and PQR are similar, where L and M correspond to P and Q respectively. Angle M has a measure of 53. What is the measure of angle Q? So this word respectively simply means that whatever order they came in is the same order they correspond with. So all that means is that angle L corresponds with angle P, and that also means that M corresponds with Q. So if M and Q correspond with each other, they must have the same angle measure. So if M is 53, so is Q. Question number 10, we can just simply pop this into Desmos, and we just need to find the point where these two intersect. Anyways, let's plug this equation into Desmos super quick. Y is equal to negative 3x. Now we have to plug in our second equation, which is 4x plus y is equal to 15. So now we just need to find our point of intersection, and sometimes we're going to have to scroll down and look for it. It's happening right here, and when we click on it, it shows us a nice point, 15 and negative 45. Okay, so all that means is that the x value is 15 for the solution, and that's just answer choice C. Question number 11. Which of the following equations is most appropriate linear model for the data shown in the scatter plot? So the easiest way to find an equation is to look for the intercept and approximately the slope. The values are all the same here, except some are positive and some are negative. So we know that our y-intercept is somewhere around 10.1, but it's going to be positive, so we can already eliminate A and C. And now our slope is going down here, so we know our slope is negative, so that only leaves answer choice B. Question number 12 honestly just kind of says a bunch of jibber jabber here. For the most part, really what it's asking is, for how many values of x does f of x equal 0? And we're shown f of x on the graph. F of x is the same thing as y, so y is 0 right here, and right here, for a total of 3 points. So our answer choice is C. Vivian bought party hats and cupcakes for $71. Each package of party hats cost $3 and each cupcake cost $1. If Vivian bought 10 packages of party hats, how many cupcakes did she buy? So let's take a look at the price of party hats. Party hats cost $3 a piece. She bought 10 packages of them. So that means that she bought 10 times 3, which is going to be $30 worth of party hats. She spent $71. So that means the remaining $41 were spent on cupcakes. And if each cupcake is $1, that means she bought 41 cupcakes. Question number 14 gives us this equation, and they want us to find one of the solutions. So here we're going to have to do a technique called factoring. So in order to factor these, we're going to use this little cross method here. We need to find two numbers that add up to 10, and when we multiply those same two numbers, we get 24. So one thing we know for sure is that one of our numbers is going to be negative, because when we multiply a negative by a positive, we get a negative. If both of our numbers were positive or both of our numbers were negative, we would have a positive here. So that already helps us out a lot. So the two numbers coming to mind for me are negative 2 and positive 12. Because when we add them up, we'll get 10. When we multiply them, we're going to get negative 24. So now we can rewrite this in factored form. Z minus 2, because our 2 is negative, and Z plus 12, because our 12 is positive. And our solutions are always going to be the opposite of what is here. So our solutions are going to be Z either equals 2 or negative 12. And for simplicity, we should probably put the positive answer. Question number 15 says, bacteria are grown in a liquid growth medium. There were 300,000 cells per milliliter during an initial observation. The number of cells per milliliter doubles every 3 hours. How many cells per milliliter will there be 15 hours after the initial observation? So first let's calculate how many times this thing is going to double. So if it doubles every 3 hours and we're looking for a period of 15 hours, I'm just going to do 15 divided by 3. That means that our number doubles 5 times. So in order to double something, we have to do 2 to the power of however many times that we're doubling. 2 to the power of 5 times the principal, which is the original amount, 300,000. All right, let's plug that into the calculator. Our answer is 9,600,000, which is answer choice D. Question number 16 is asking us to factor out the greatest common factor out of these here. This one has a 6, this one has a 12. They're both divisible by 6, but they're not both divisible by 12. So we're going to pull out a 6. All of these have x's and y's, but they have different amounts. So we can't pull out x to the power of 8 because over here we only have x squared. So the greatest thing we can pull out is x squared. Both of these have y squared, so we're just going to pull out y squared. So then what is left inside? We took out the 6 completely. We took out the y squared completely. There was an x to the power of 8. Whenever we're multiplying exponents or dividing exponents, it's like adding and subtracting the exponent. So inside, we're going to have x to the power of 6 plus, we pulled out a 6, not a 12, so that still leaves behind a 2. And we pulled out x squared and y squared completely, so that's all that's left. And this gives us answer choice C. Question number 17 says a neighborhood consists of 2-hectare park and a 35-hectare residential area. The total number of trees in the neighborhood is 3,934. The equation 2x plus 35y equals 3,934 represents the situation. Which of the following could be the best interpretation of x in this context? Okay, so they're telling us 2-hectare parks and 35-hectare residential areas. So what does that tell us? The 2 must correspond to the x, and the 35 must correspond to the y, because when we add them up, or the total number, we get 3,934. Take a look at our answer choices here. The average number of trees per hectare in the park. Okay, that seems reasonable. The second one is talking about residential areas. We know that residential areas have something to do with 35, so that's going to be wrong. Total number of trees in the park. So this has something to do with parks. However, just x by itself is not the total number because there are 2-hectare parks and we have to multiply x by 2 in order to get the area or the total number of trees in the park. So this is wrong. And then the last one's residential areas, so that's wrong as well. That leaves us with answer choice A. Question number 18 says, the graph shows a relationship between the number of shares of stock from company A, X, and the number of shares of stock from company B, Y. Simon. Which equation could represent this relationship? Well, we have a graph here, so we can easily check A and C. Is our intercept 12 or 8? No, our intercept is at 40. So A and C are gone already. So now let's check the other two. It's very easy to check equations in standard form by plugging in 0 for one of the variables to find the intercept of the other one. So let's take 8x plus 12y is equal to 480 for our first example here. If we set x equal to 0, we will get the y-intercept we already know is 40. So we plug in 0 for x, and anything times 0 just kind of disappears. So 12y equals 480. If we divide both sides by 12, what will we get? We will get 40. So the intercept checks out. And just so we know that we didn't get this wrong, other equation has 8y. So if we did the same exact maneuver there, we would have divided 480 by 8, which would not have gotten us 40. So we know for sure D is wrong and B is right. And that's it. Question number 19 says circle A has a radius of 3n and circle B has a radius of 129n, where n is a positive constant. Alright, so whenever they say that n is a positive constant and it's being multiplied by both of the numbers, we can kind of ignore n, because if we're going to be dividing the numbers by each other, the n's are going to cancel out. They're really there just to confuse you. It doesn't change anything. It's the same thing as saying that the radius of circle A was, let's say, 6 if in the case n was 2. And then that would mean that the radius of circle B would just be 258, and then we're back to regular numbers. If it's a positive constant and it's the same for both of them, it's basically negligible. Yeah, so SAT tests love to throw in stuff like that to confuse you. So let's keep reading the question. The area of circle B is how many times the area of circle A? So let's take a look at what the formula is to find the area of a circle anyway. The area of a circle is pi r squared. So ignoring the ends, let's plug in both of these radiuses and find the areas of both of these circles. So 3 squared would be 9. So our area would be 9 pi for circle A. For circle B, 129. So we're going to do 129 times pi. 129 squared, because pi r squared. That's going to be 16,641 pi. So we can just divide 6,641 pi by 9 pi. Or we can just do 16,641 divided by 9. Because if they both have pi and we're dividing by it, they're going to cancel out anyway. And that's going to give us a final answer of 1,849, which is D. Question number 20 says, the frequency table summarizes 57 data values in a data set. What is the maximum data value of the data set, or in the data set? So on this side we have data value, on this side we have frequency. So we're being asked about the maximum data value, so we can completely ignore frequency. And what is the maximum number? That's just the biggest number of the data value set. That's just going to be 14. Alright, so question number 21 says that a circle in the xy plane has a diameter with endpoints 2, 4, and 2, 14. And then it gives us what the standard equation of a circle is, or even this specific circle. And so as r is a positive constant, what is the value of r? So if you know what the standard equation of a circle is, r is the radius. And they tell us the endpoints of the diameter. So we can realistically find the diameter. So they both have 2 in common. So that just means that they're 10 points away from each other if we just did 14 minus 4. So if the 2 endpoints of the diameters from one side to the other side of the circle are 10 units, that means our diameter is 10 units. So what does that mean about the radius? The radius is half of the diameter. So therefore our radius is just 5. There's nothing else we need to do. Question number 22 says that the measure of angle r is 2 pi over 3 radians. The measure of angle t is 5 pi over 12 radians greater than the measure of angle r. What is the measure of angle t in degrees? So first let's convert this into degrees real quick. In order to do that, all we need to do is replace pi with 180, because in radians, pi is 180 degrees. An easy way to remember that is a circle is 2 pi all the way around. And if a circle is 360 degrees, pi must be 180 degrees. So to plug that into the calculator, we'll just do 2 times 180 and divide it by 3. Okay, so let's plug that into the calculator. So this is going to be 120 degrees. So then for angle t, it's saying that it's that many radian degrees greater than the measure of angle r. So let's do measure of angle r plus, and let's convert that 5 pi over 12 into degrees first. That should be 75 degrees, and we did the same thing. We just did 5 times 180 divided by 12, because when we're doing radians to degrees, pi just equals 180 degrees. So if it's 75 degrees greater than angle r, just going to do 120 plus 75 and get that is 195 degrees. Question number 23 says, a certain town has an area of 4.36 square miles. What is the area in square yards of this town? 1 mile equals 1,760 yards. So remember guys, when we're converting areas, we don't divide or multiply once, we do it twice. Let me give you an example. If something is 2 yards by 3 yards, and we convert that to feet before we find any kind of area, so the top here would be 6 feet, and the right side would be 9 feet. Our area in square yards would be 6 yards squared, but our area in feet of the same exact thing would be 54 feet squared. So whatever our unit is of conversion, we're going to multiply by it twice. So in this case, our unit of conversion is 3. We're going to multiply by 3 twice, or multiply by 9. And that's why the difference is times 9 instead of times 3. Alright, so let's apply that to this question here. So if the area is 4.36 square miles, when we're converting to square yards, we're not just going to multiply by 1,760. We're going to multiply by 1,760 2 separate times. So it should look something like 4.36 times 1,760 times 1,760. And if we plug that in the calculator, we should get 13,505,536, which is answer choice D. Question number 24 says, for line H, the table shows 3 values of x and their corresponding values of y. Line K is the result of translating line H 5 units in the xy plane. What is the x-intercept of line K? So before we can do that, we need to find out what line H is, and we have to create it based on the points here. All we need to do that is we need 2 points, and we already have 3, so we're good. So we need to start off by finding the slope. That's just y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So all that means is that the value we pick for y that comes first has to correspond with the x value that we pick first. That's what these 2 and 1 mean. So let's plug in some numbers. So I'm going to start off with 160 minus 130. And since I picked 160, I'm going to go with 23 minus 18. So if we simplify that, we should get 30 over 5, or a slope of 6. So if our slope is 6 in slope-intercept form, that should look like y equals 6x, but we don't know our intercept, so we're going to leave that as b. So I'm going to clean up here. Okay, now that we have more room to work with, in order to find b, we already have points. We can just plug them in for x and y, and we can find b that way. So I'm just going to plug in 130 for y, and I'm going to plug in 18 for x. So that's going to simplify to 130 equals 108 plus b. So if I subtract 108 from both sides, I should get that b is equal to 22. So now let's rewrite our original equation. The equation for line H is y equals 6x plus 22. I'm going to clean up so we have some more room again. Now that we know what line H is, if we need to translate it 5 units down to find line K, all we need to do is just subtract by 5 on the end there. So that's just going to be y equals 6x plus 17. So line K is y equals 6x plus 17. How do we find the x-intercept? The x-intercept occurs when y is equal to 0. And you can see that in all the answer choices. All we need to do is plug in 0 for y and solve for x. 0 equals 6x plus 17. Minus 17, minus 17. Negative 17 equals 6x. Divide both sides by 6. X equals negative 17 over 6. And that is answer choice D. Question number 25 says, in the xy plane, the graph of the equation y equals negative x squared plus 9x minus 100 intersects with the line y equals c at exactly 1 point. What is the value of c? So let's talk about what they're asking for and how we're going to solve this in Desmos. This equation here is going to be a parabola that looks something like this. This isn't exact because we're not on Desmos right now and doesn't really matter. What they're saying is it intersects with it 1 time. So if the line happened to go through here, that wouldn't work because it would intersect 2 times. The only place where it can intersect 1 time is at the vertex, which is right here. So we're looking for what value of y is the vertex. And this isn't going to be very difficult to do in Desmos. So let's go over there and get started on that. All right, now that we're in Desmos, let's plug in our equation. So we're going to have to scroll around a little bit to find it. Here it is. And our vertex isn't at an exact number. Our vertex is at negative 79.75. So let's take a look at our answer choices here. We know that our value of c has to be negative 79.95. However, we're given fractions. So what we can do here is we can just plug in both of these fractions into the calculator because we know it's not going to be this. And we know that 9 divided by 2 is not negative 79.95. We're going to plug both of these in and find out which one is correct. 481 divided by 4 is going to be negative 120.25. So that one's wrong. That really only leaves answer choice C, but let's plug it into the calculator to be sure. 319 divided by 4 is indeed going to be negative 79.75, which is our answer. Answer choice C. Question number 26 is a bit of a nightmare. And if you're getting this wrong, I wouldn't worry too much because these are rare. And at the end of the day, it is one question. It is worth the same number of points as every other question. And if we get all those right, should be good for the score. However, we're still going to explain how to do this. So first things first, what we can realize immediately right off the bat here is if we multiply our top equation by 5, it's going to be exactly identical to the second equation. So what this means is that regardless of if we plug into the top equation or the bottom equation, whatever values work for one are going to work for the other. That really just means that these are literally the same exact lines. Like there's no difference. So regardless of which equation we plug into, we're going to get the same answer. So just for simplicity, we can plug into the top equation instead of wasting our time with the bigger numbers on the bottom equation. But basically, to solve these types of problems, we have to plug in an x value that they give us, and we have to see if it corresponds to the right y value, x value. Whichever one we plug in, it has to correspond to the other one. So I'm going to ignore answer choice A here, because it's going to be a lot easier to just plug in R for Y or plug in R for X. So we're going to start off with these, and then if those don't work, we'll move on to answer choice A. So starting with answer choice B, let's plug in R for Y because it's in the place of Y and see what we get for X. 2x plus 3, and instead of Y, we're plugging in R equals 7. All right, so if we subtract 3R from both sides because we are solving for X, we should get that 2x equals 7 minus 3r. Then we divide both sides by 2 to solve for x. We get that x equals 7 minus 3r divided by 2. And that happens to be the same thing as we have here for b if we were to rewrite it. Because if we can split that up into two separate fractions. We can say that 7 minus 3r is 7 over 2 minus 3r over 2. And we can flip-flop those to be 3r or negative 3r over 2 plus 7 over 2. So luckily answer choice B worked out, but sort of so you understand the concept, I'm going to run through answer choice C as well. So we know that answer choice B is correct, but sort of the way we solve these questions is let's take R. Here it's in the place of x. Let's plug it into x. 2r plus 3y equals 7. So in this case, we would be solving for y. Minus 2r, 3y equals 7 minus 2r. I'm going to divide by 3. Y equals 7 minus 2r over 3. If we were to break this down in the same format that they have it here, negative 2r, while they have positive 2r, so it's going to be incorrect. And since we already plugged in r for x, and we know that it's going to be 7 minus 2r, or if we rewrote it in the format that they like writing it, negative 2r over 3 plus 7 over 3. We know that this is what happens when we plug in r for x. We know that answer choice D is also wrong. In the case that we weren't sure about our answer choice B or something, but this is also just to show you how these types of questions are solved. So question number 27 is asking, the perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 624 centimeters. The height of this triangle is k times the root of 3 centimeters, where k is a constant. What is the value of k? Okay, so in order to solve this, we're going to need access to this front page where we have our special right triangles. So let's draw this out. We have an equilateral triangle, so that means all the sides are equal to each other, and that means that all the angles are also equal to each other. They're all 60 degrees. And let's find the length of our sides. If the perimeter is 624, we just need to divide 624 by 3. So that means that each side is 208. So you're not seeing an equilateral triangle here, and that's because in order to solve this, we need to split this triangle in half. So if we split it perfectly down the middle, I'm going to redraw it off to the side here. This angle, which used to be 60, it's been cut in half. It's 30 degrees now. This angle here is 60 degrees. This angle here is 90. And that's why we cut it in half, because the special right triangles are right triangles. So we need that 90. That also means that our hypotenuse here is still 208. Our height, which is the same here and here, is still unknown, but we can find it. And that means that our base here is going to be 104, since we split this 208 in half. So now if we use our special right triangles, right now this one is put on its side as if this one was tilted 90 degrees counterclockwise, but we can still figure it out. So according to the theorem, it says that the bottom is x, so in this case 104, that the hypotenuse is 2x, so it's just 2 times whatever the length here is, which is true, and that this height here, which in our case we're calling h, or actually, yeah, we're going to call it h for now, is x times root 3. So that means that if x is 104, our height is going to be 104 times root 3. So they're telling us that the height of the triangle is k times root 3. We know that it's 104 times root 3. They're asking us what k is. K is just 104. That's it.